In verse 14 it says, "Then I moved on toward the fountain gate in the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through." 15, "So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate." So obviously he's done an extensive evaluation in the night of what was taking place, and not all of these gates can we recognize or find, but of course we know that he started on the west side, moved up east and north, and then covered many think he discovered his tracks coming back. Verse 16, it says that the subtitle here is "Time for Refraining." "The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work." Ecclesiastes 3:7 states that there is a time to speak and a time to be silent. And Nehemiah obviously knows the difference. In his wisdom, he determines when others will be informed. He doesn't go out unprepared. He hasn't told anyone about his plans and how he's going to bring about reconstruction of the walls and gates of Jerusalem. And one of the things that's so critical is he wants to make sure he has everything right before he speaks about it. You know, the worst thing that happens oftentimes in churches is we get excited about a project and we leak out a little bit of information, and all of a sudden, before you know it, all the parking lot meetings take place, and the next thing you know, you've got something so out of whack from where it started, and now you've got a hornet's nest developing because somebody's got the wrong idea about the project that you've started. And so Nehemiah is doing the right thing here. He's making sure no one knows until he is fully prepared to disclose the facts, the details, and get people on board. A good lesson for us. In verse 17, the first part of verse 17, it says, "Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire." Something very significant here. He says, you see the trouble we are in. He's just arrived on the scene, but all of a sudden, in his first speech to these individuals, he's become part of them. He speaks as he is one of them. Not saying you got a problem and I'm here to fix it, but he says we've got some trouble here. So he becomes part of the group, and that's significant. It binds. It builds that bonding that he's going to need to have with these individuals as he moves forward in completing the mission, especially as they face some outside obstacles. It says, Jerusalem lies in ruins and its gates have been burned with fire. One of the things that's going on here, these people have grown so accustomed, you live in the same situation, day in, day out. Oftentimes you fail to recognize what's taking place. So Nehemiah does a smart thing here. He brings back to their attention the situation they're living in, and that it is trouble. It's not a good thing. So in verse 7, in 17b and 18a, it says, "Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me, and what the king has said to me." So Nehemiah gives a radical proposal that seems impossible. The city has not had fortified walls for over 140 years. But Nehemiah reinforces his plan by talking about, number one, his blessings by God and his king. So, just to kind of build some strength behind his proposal. And then 18b, we get the people's response. They replied, "Let us start rebuilding." So they began this good work. So Nehemiah has a very persuasive way about him. The people combined their inner desires with their emotions that Nehemiah has stirred up, and they encourage one another for the good work ahead of them, and their response is, let's go, let's get it done. Let's don't waste any time. Let's get this project moving ahead. So a good thing for Nehemiah and a positive reaction from the people. Now in verse 19 we see the coming challenge being issued. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Amorite official and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. What is this you are doing? They asked. Are you rebelling against the king? So thus we see now the opposition starting to develop. And these are people that have probably been the instigators in difficulty for the people of Jerusalem for years. And of course the first thing they see, and they of course hear the word is out that somebody's come to rebuild the gates, rebuild the wall, and of course immediately the attacks begin. So the people of Judah and Jerusalem have enemies on all sides. They've got to the north, it was Sanballat, to the east it was Tobiah, and to the south it was Geshem. Later in Nehemiah 4:7 it says the people of Ashdod, which lies to the west, also joined this confederation against the people of Judah and Israel. So the enemy leaders know that using force against Nehemiah is not a good idea. If they do, they're going to bring the wrath of the king of Babylon down upon them. So what they instead decide to do is get into a war of words.